Thanks for joining. This is Movado, and I'm back here in Reforged Eden version 1.7 of Empyrion Galactic. Today I'm back here in outer space looking at some legacy ships. I wanted to do a quick overview of all the new legacy ships, the changes that they've seen in 1.7, and talk a little bit about some of the updated strategy on how to kill some of these. If you've seen my video that I did in 1.5, I gave some tips there. A lot of those still apply, but with the new turrets, hit scan, beam lasers that they have, it did change things a little bit. So no more spinny, no more plastic ships. You're going to need something that's going to take some damage because your shields are not going to last against the legacy. But we'll get into some of those details as we go through the ships. So let's start off. As you've seen, there is more than one of each version of some of these versions of the ships. So with Legacy Infector, there's 3 different versions. Those are all uniquely different. There are 2 different versions of the Decimator, again, uniquely different in how they're laid out. Some of them you can clearly see the difference. 1 Devastator and 1 Eradicator, those have not changed. So, back to the Infectors. This one right here is the standard Infector. If you've fought Legacy before, you've seen this one before. Overall, it appears the turret layout is unchanged. You still have Legacy Disruptors down here. You've still got a lightning cannon down here, so if you get too close, it's going to zap you. More Legacy Disruptors. You've got the Disruptor Cannons around this little circular ball right here. 4 of those. And I think that might be it on this guy. Then in the center of it, where the core is, just right in here, you've got a couple shockwave emitters, which I was surprised to see. I thought the shockwave emitters were taken out when the lightning cannons, or whatever they're called, were added, but there are 2 shockwave emitters right here. So that is the standard one. Give me 1 sec. Alright, sorry about that. I am back. So, on the Legacy Infector, overall the turrets are the same on the outside. Those turrets are beam laser, hit scan, instantly hit your ships, so that's the biggest change on them. Overall, your strategy is going to remain unchanged with this Infector. You're generally going to want to keep your ship off to one side of the ship, so you really cut off line of sight for as many turrets as you possibly can from the other side of the ship, or even the bottom ones below. A lot of times one of my favorite things to do on the Infector, especially early game when you don't have a super powerful ship, is you sit on one side, you pick off these turrets over here, you come down to the bottom, you pick off these turrets, but also take out its drive thrusters, which is these 10 thrusters you see here, the 2 advanced thrusters, the 8 medium thrusters that are surrounded around that. Take out all those, and this ship really becomes a sitting duck and it can't move. That is all of its drive thrust. So after you take out one side, take out these guys, and then if you really want to, maybe take out this turret or some of these other ones if you really want to, then you can just sit directly behind it and you can shoot your artillery straight through from the back, or positron, or whatever you use. I really recommend using artillery, but that is one of the easiest ways, is to take out those thrusters there. The other thing you can consider doing is, I'm going through the ship so you can kind of see, here is the core. If you come out the other side, there is the warp drive. Warp drive is something that is targetable, so the other strategy you could do is you could actually come up behind it and set all of your turrets to target its warp drive. Then your auto turrets would then shoot, and if we kind of draw a line, this may be confusing. Let me turn the warp drive on in the menu, and you can see where it is. So you can see the warp drive is up there. The core is straight through here, so not quite there. So if you stay behind it, slightly below center like this, your turrets will shoot towards that warp drive and eventually take out the core in its path. I did notice that some of the generators are no longer around the outside of the core room like I've seen in previous updates. So in previous versions of the Infector, there used to be generators in this wall, I think where these fuel tanks are, or somewhere near here. Those were taken out probably because they saw that people were targeting those and using it to kill the cores, so those aren't there anymore, which is why some of the strategy by coming from the side, shooting across this way, doesn't work anymore. You really have to come from the back on it. But that is the regular Infector, not a lot has changed. So what's with these new guys? There's two new guys. At first glance, you can see, yeah, they got this little pointed thing there. This one's got the extra band on the outside. This one's got the pointed thing, but it's got this band around the back. That's really the difference, is just the looks of them. They do have slightly different loadouts in terms of number of weapons. I think they all have this lightning cannon down here. It looks like they do. This guy's got the little claws on it that you've seen in some of the other ships, like the Decimator. Lightning cannon. Yeah, this one's got the lightning cannon in it. I'm going to take a quick peek at the core just to see if this one's still got... Yep, that's got the shockwave emitter. And this one's got... Okay, so they all do have the shockwave emitter. Alright, this guy. It's got the couple bands on the side. It has, I mean, if you were to stay off to the back side over here, you can clearly see there's 4 turrets right here that have line of sight, versus if you do that straight strategy on coming on this side, if you position yourself right, maybe up high a little bit up here, you're really only going to get those 2 and maybe 1 down from by the thruster. So it looks like this one's really geared towards targeting people that are approaching it from the back, like I like to do, like I've done on so many videos. Also has, it looks like, a couple more in the front on each side, so it does have a few extra turrets over the standard version. Lightning cannon on the front. Lightning cannon on the front. They do all have a lightning cannon in the front. Okay, I wasn't sure about that. Looks like the lightning cannons are there. So, that's the difference with this Infector. Easy to tell it apart because it has this big band there. Again, similar strategy. A lot of times I like to take out these thrusters right there. It is a sitting duck at that point. Inside the ship, like the other one, I'm going to go inside these walls here. There are no generators in here to target. So, again, similar to the other one, you could always use the warp drive. Target the warp drive. Honestly, this is the first time I've ever said target a warp drive, but there it is, target a warp drive. The Infectors make that possible. Alright, so that's this guy. This one, very similar. It doesn't have the bars. It has 1 turret there, and it has 1 turret on this side. This one actually looks like it has a little bit less firepower. Alright, so there's one change I have not talked about yet, and that is with the turrets and how they target. Let me see if any of these Infectors do it. It looks like they don't. So the Infectors, it appears, except for this guy. So the 2 new Infectors, when you look at turret targeting, everything's green, which means every turret targets everything on your ship, and whatever is the closest to your ship, it will shoot at. This ship, this other new Infector, is the same thing. Everything is green, which means every turret will target whatever is closest on your ship. I'm guessing that was an oversight. They didn't intend to do that. I'm sure if they see this video, they'll probably change it. Alright, this guy, though, alien devices, these are all yellow. That means that, at least to my knowledge, this is the first time they have added selective targeting within the turret groups. So let's take a look at those. These disruptors are targeting every device on the ship. Now you get a disruptor that's only targeting a warp drive or a generator. So if you're using a thruster as decoy, it's going to ignore all your turret's weapons and go straight for generators and warp drives. So when you're building your ships, you kind of need to make sure that you have, let's keep going through these, turrets and thrusters, generators. You know, turrets and thrusters are their own groupings. So if you have turrets on the outside of your ship in front of thrusters, it'll go straight for those turrets. Let's keep going here. No more warp drive and generator, more warp drive and generator, warp drive generator, and some turrets and thrusters. So keep that in mind when you're building your ships. I highlight this because you really, when you face Legacy now, you really need to have every turret group or every group on here represented as a decoy. You want buried in your ship as a decoy, a generator, a thruster, some type of a turret or mounted weapon, and a warp drive. Alright, there's my Soul Syphon. I'm going to use that as a demonstration a little bit later to kind of show you how I've laid out some of the decoys and how I fight them. So anyway, back to the ships. Legacy Infector. I did fight one of these guys on Spanja server. Honestly, I fought this ship right here, this guy. If you position yourself right, you come straight kind of behind it off to the side like this. only this turret that I'm looking at has line of sight, and that's the only one that was shooting me if you stay in the right spot on its side. I lost a total of 2 Xeno blocks off the nose of my Soul Syphon in that kill, simply by staying off to the side, isolating its turrets, burning its shield down, picking off the turrets, and then coring it. So that's kind of how you handle those. Infectors are really easy. Their shields are pretty weak. Actually, I think one thing I didn't talk about is their shields. That's got the legacy shield generator. I think one of them does not, though. This has got the legacy. I think this one's got the standard, but I could be wrong. Oh, they all got the legacy shield generator, so they're all going to have that strong defense. Okay, on to the Decimator. 2 versions. This one is the one you're used to. It's got the 3 arches to the bottom. It's got the 3 arches kind of to the back. Typical strategy is that with this one, at least for me, was I'd come straight up against it in the front. In certain angles here in the front, none of those turrets would have line of sight, and you could almost have complete immunity to its shots. That still generally works with the Legacy Decimator with this version. What I would actually recommend doing on this one, you either want to come at it straight forward if you can isolate its turrets, or come onto one half of it, similar how you do an Infector. However, one thing to keep in mind with Legacy in general is that all their weapons are really good at burning down your shields, and none of them are really good at doing block damage to your ship unless you fly a plastic ship. So, don't fly a plastic ship against Legacy unless you have some type of reinforcements in the front, because it will melt all your plastic really, really fast. But B, I mean, you with these ships, you don't need an overly fast spinny ship either. With these, you can use a standard sit there and camp in front of them or camp to the side, take its shields down, and then pick off its turrets. So, with the Xeno ship, it's barely going to do any damage to Xeno. It does, but it's not that bad. All right, so back to this guy. Ramming this ship is a perfectly valid tactic. Like I said, all the turrets are going to burn your shield down really fast, so one thing you can do now is you can just come up to this thing and ram its nose to stop it. And then on this Decimator, the core has not changed its location. It is still right here. It is still right here, right between these 2 turrets. So if you want to have really fun, take its shield down, ram it. If you've got artillery, just launch some artillery right here, or use your positron and carve a hole straight through this thing, right into the core. You'll take it down pretty fast. The other nice thing about the Decimators is that in previous versions, I am going to take its shield down, and I will show you how cheesy this Decimator was in previous versions. So in previous versions, yes, there was a bunch of cheese going on with the Decimator. There was a row of foundation blocks in a Decimator that has now been removed. So you see how this block is discolored? It's the natural untextured, where the rest of them are textured. This is what was taken out between 1.6 and 1.7. All these blocks were foundation blocks in previous versions. So that block was foundation block. These are all foundation blocks in previous versions of Reforged Eden. I don't think that one was. But there was also, these were, and I believe these 2 might have been. I'm not sure, 100% sure on those 2. But all those blocks right here were all foundation blocks. The reason why foundation blocks were reused is because they have a ridiculous amount of hit points or blast resistance on them. They actually don't have a ton of hit points. It's only like 2,500 hit points, but they have a lot of blast resistance, and it takes forever to destroy them. But they're super cheesy because they're not allowed in any other builds, but the Legacy Decimators in Reforged had them right there. That has since been taken out in this version. Now that there's 2 of them in there, it is pure Xeno all the way through the nose, straight to this core. That's how you kill it. Like I said, if you need to isolate half of it, kill some turrets, come to this side, isolate some turrets, kill them there, you can certainly do that. In total, 27 total devices, although 2 of them are lightning cannons. And like the other ones, you can see warp drives, thrusters, and generators are unchecked on some of these, so make sure you have a decoy of everything. The biggest thing I think I'd recommend is you see these first 2 only target turrets and mounted weapons. Only turrets and mounted weapons. If you do not have a decoy in your ship of a turret or a mounted weapon, this Legacy Decimator is going to start going for your turrets and mounted weapons right away with some of its turrets. So keep that in mind. You need all of your decoys. This one's got a thruster paired with them. Warp Drive, obviously, you don't want to use as a decoy, but make sure it's in a position that aligns with your decoys. So, like, I'll get to that later. That's obviously a pretty long tubular ship. The Warp Drive is dead center, right in the middle, way back, and then I'll show you where that is. It's in a really good spot, but that's kind of what you want when you go into your combat ships, is to have something centered, especially with the Warp Drive. Being that these have hit scan weapons, it'll just hit the front of your ship on its way to try to get to the Warp Drive, but we'll get to that later. Okay, that's the old Decimator, the current one. Here's the brand new one. Obviously, they added some extra arcs over here. Now, at first glance, you could say, well, they went from 3 arcs plus 3 arcs down here to 6 arcs right here, but these arcs have turrets on both sides. So, behold, that's the difference. It's got more turrets, 12 total extra turrets. I actually fought one of these ships on Spanja server with my Soul Syphon with 4 aux cores in it and maybe 1 quantum. It wasn't that bad, honestly. That was where I learned about turret targeting, because it started immediately going for the turrets on my ship. And yeah, I lost a couple of them, but it wasn't that bad, honestly. But let's look at alien devices. Yeah, like the other one, there's definitely a mix going on here. Make sure you have all your stuff represented, but overall, these 2 ships are not that bad. This Decimator, ironically, from a total turret count, is almost the same as the Devastator. However, there is one key difference that I haven't touched on yet between these 2 Decimators. I showed you the core location there. On this one, it is critically important you know the difference between the 2, because on this one, where that core is where the quantum box is here. This is the quantum container. So, if you use the same strategy, you ram it in the nose, you punch a hole through the front of it, and you blow this out, you're going to be mad at yourself because you just blew up your quantum. Instead, this guy is perfectly aligned, almost with this turret. It is right between those 2 thrusters right there. So, if you look at all these arcs, you look at the first one that has a turret, it is straight inside of here. Through this advanced extender, yay, you get to blow that up, and the core is right here. The core is right here. Through that advanced extender, honestly, there's not really a clean way to get at this unless you come from the top, which honestly, that potentially could work, I guess. It's just a lot to go through on the top. Let me look at that. So from the top, I guess the same strategy. You got bare thruster. Those thrusters have the vent caps over them. So really, if you just aim from the top down, I'm actually teaching myself a new strategy right now. I never thought of it this way. If you just aim straight down here, that's where the core is, right there. So that would be another way to go at it rather than from the sides. But what I did on the server when I attacked it is, obviously, it takes your shields down right away, so don't even worry about shield boosters on your ship. Just get a ship that can tank it. All Xenos where I'd recommend going. I stayed on one half. I tore off all the turrets over here. Kind of started working my way around the back. Eventually tore off all the turrets on that side. And then, honestly, I just rammed the crap out of this ship. I would come at the front of it, and I would just ram it to stop it. I would arch around the side, and I would launch some artillery in here. And then I'd go back forward and I'd ram it again, and then I'd shoot some more artillery in there. Or if you really wanted to, you could probably get your ship wedged up against these arches right here. But ramming is a super valid tactic. Even if there's a lightning cannon, even if there's a lightning cannon on the inside or one you missed, it doesn't matter because their turrets don't do any hull damage anymore. It's all shield. They barely sizzle your blocks. So, embrace ramming, slow them down, line up your shots, hit those volleys right in here. You're going to lose an extender. Actually, I didn't follow my advice. Follow this turret. 1 block to the right between those 2, and right through here. There it is. There's your core. That's the difference between the Legacy Decimators. Yeah. Now, on this guy, the big guy, it has 39 total devices. 2 of those are lightning cannons. Let's move over to the Devastator. Remember that number 39. It only has 36. So technically, the Devastator has less turrets than the Decimator, the big guy. So from a difficulty side, I'm going to call these two roughly equal. However, the one thing that's kind of cool about the Devastator, from my perspective as the person attacking it, is this wonderful area right here where you look right up its butt and it can barely shoot you with anything. So yeah, in the back here you've got these turrets up here, you've got the turrets up there, around these tentacles, turret there. So yeah, there are a decent amount that can shoot you, but if you sit right back here, all those tentacles and that ring block out everything in front. Get really close to it, melt its shield down, let your auto turrets take out the disruptor cannons on the Devastator. As soon as they're down, focus your artillery on taking out that drive thruster. That is your best friend, is that one drive thruster is its sole thrust in the entire ship. Take it out. Take it out. Sometimes what's fun to do is just to completely back away, although the risk in backing away is its shield will recharge. So usually what I would do is if I'm fighting this one, I'm going to take out these turrets back here. Take down its shield. As soon as its shield's down, I'm going after that drive thruster. So really a lot of times that thruster is gone before most of these turrets are gone. And then as soon as that thruster's gone, I continue to lob my artillery straight into the hole of where this thruster was. Because if we go through this thruster, there's a wall, there's a shield generator, but here's the core. Yeah, the core is right here, right behind this drive thruster. Actually up just a little bit, so keep that in mind. If you balance with your O key, you should generally align to the ship's, how the ship should be aligned. So if you use your O key, get aligned with it. You're going to want to shoot up just a little bit, because through this drive thruster is up a block and it's right here. You go straight out, yeah, you're at the top block of the drive thruster. So that's where that one's at. That's how I recommend taking on the Devastator. If we look at the turret targeting, yeah, you can see it's got all sorts of mixes going on. No thrusters on that one. Only turrets. Only turrets is the one that I've noticed is only turrets. And it deselects NPCs, drones, and players. That's interesting. That's a warp drive and generator. So I'm not seeing anything else new in here. Warp drive generator, which we've seen. No thruster. And no thruster. Okay, that's the Devastator. Honestly, from a total turret count, it's super similar to the Decimator. In this version, they're equal. They're honestly, if you can kill this, the bloated Decimator, you can kill this. They're the same. They're the same. All right, last guy, Eradicator. Dun dun dun. All right, the Eradicator. 72 total disruptor cannons. 2 of them are lightning cannons, so there's 70 on it. That's actually a reduction. I think there were like 94 before or something like that. There's a lot. There was a lot. They were reduced. Yeah, I mean, the Eradicator is really a ship you don't want to take on right away until you get a beefed up ship. You need something that can take down a shield pretty quickly. And then you need something that has a lot of hit scan or single block damage weapons that are going to take out turrets. So my personal recommendation are like railguns or gosh, what are some of the other single turret? I'm totally blanking on it, but luckily we can just look at the menu here. Cruise missiles are actually really nice because they heat sink. These heavy railguns are really nice. There are some other special turrets in here. Let's see. Honestly, cannons probably wouldn't be all that bad. Positrons aren't bad either. Some of these modulated lasers, I'm going to start playing around with these. This infrared one might not be bad, and this gamma one might not. So this gamma one's really good for shields. It has a reduced range of 0.31 miles, and this infrared has a 0.56 mile range, so it has a decent range on it once the shield is down, but it's specific for armor damage or hull damage. So that's an option. You have a large Vulcan turret here as an option. That would be a good one. There's like a Gauss one in here too. Where is the Gauss? The Gauss. All right, heavy railgun. I said that one. Light Sentinel Flax. Now here it is. Gauss Vulcan. That's another one that could be an option for taking out turrets. So anything that's single point is really good. But if you can't do that, then do your heat-seeking options like cruise missiles, rocket launchers, missile turrets. I would avoid plasma. Heavy lasers might be a good option. I would not use plasma at all, actually. Artillery, I don't know if it tracks very well. Last time I used it, it wasn't very good. It didn't track very well, so. All right, well that's that. So what I would do, like I said, on the Eradicator, you're gonna need a ship that's got a lot of firepower, that's gonna be able to melt its shield down fast, because I think they all have the same shield. Oh, it's got shield capacitors. So that's interesting. I didn't look at that on the Devastator. I don't think this one has it. Nope. Okay, that's an interesting distinction between the two. The Eradicator, 123k shield, whereas this one's going to be probably a 73k, 99k. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. There's two shield capacitors that equal 25k each. So, in theory, it should be a 50k shield boost. Mm-hmm. 99,000 shield. Yeah, this is an 85,000 shield, hit point shield. That seems a little sneaky, a little cheaty cheat. Getting a 99,000 hit point shield on an 85,000 hit point shield capacitor. Wonder why that is. These legacy disruptors are probably giving positive shield recharge or something crazy. Well, they certainly don't have a negative shield charge value to them, or shield capacity. Anyway, back to the Eradicator. Okay, so we found a difference. This one's got a bigger shield. This one's got the shield capacitors, 123k capacity. Like the other ones, I recommend isolating turrets until it gets down to a point where you can focus its core. Nice thing about the Eradicator is it tells you where its core is. It's this big glowy circle. Right in the middle of that glowy circle is where its core is. So this block, right there, right here, goes straight through this point, and it is right there. It is not that far, honestly. There's one block there. Let me get out of here. Let me see. You got this block that's above it. You got the ceiling that's above that. That's 2 blocks, 3 blocks, 4 blocks. There's like 4 blocks above it, plus this one, maybe 5. It's not that bad. The hard thing is lining up your shots and hitting that spot. The one thing that's with the Eradicators is there's nothing nearby to target. So when you go in here, there's nothing near the core, like a thruster, or anything else like that that's really easy to get a line of sight on. You got a shield right here, but you can't target a shield. There's just nothing here. There is a generator somewhere. There's a generator here. But there's generators all over this thing, so like it would be really hard to get your turrets to target anything that would get this core. What I would recommend doing, bust out your RAM again. So once you get this ship down to a spot where, you know, maybe knock off a bunch of turrets, ram it, stop it, slow this ship down. Heck, wedge the nose of your ship in these little rings right here. I mean, it's got all these perfect little ridges on it. Just wedge your ship in it, stop it, and just unload your artillery in that hole, and you'll kill that thing pretty darn quick. Artillery, positron turrets, launchers, cannons, whatever you want to call them, your manual fire weapons, you should be able to take these couple blocks out relatively quickly. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've tested it against my Soul Crusher, which is very similar to the Soul Syphon. I think if I have 21 artillery turrets, I think I can core it in one shot, maybe 2 tops. 2 shots if you use all 21. Now, you're not going to use all 21, but it kind of gives you the idea that that's 40 rounds of artillery. If you have 8 artillery cannons on your ship, maybe only have 4, but either way, that's 10 shots. It doesn't take very long to get 10 shots on here, so that's how you get the Eradicator. Now, last thing, the reason why I have the Soul Syphon in here is to just show you how I've laid out my ship for recommendations on how to set up your decoys. Now, the first thing you'll notice about the Soul Syphon is it is all Xeno. 5,354 Xeno blocks. That is the entire exterior hull of this ship is all Xeno, 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 Xeno. Inside here, all Xeno, Xeno, Xeno. The only place you run into carbon is on the inside of this ship. This first layer is carbon. Here is Xeno as well. So it's really the decorative pieces are Xeno. Or sorry, are carbon. Everything else is Xeno. The other thing I'd recommend is you got these big thruster pods back here. These thruster pods are actually all carbon composite. There is no Xeno in them. I played around with converting these to Xeno, but honestly, there was no benefit because it just slowed down the ship quite a bit by having that extra Xeno weight out here. And I mean, I battle tested this against a corrupted dreadnought, and I only lost one of the reverse thrusters. So it generally don't get hit back here, so you generally don't need it. So I would, this is all carbon substrate on the thrusters. Everything else is all Xeno. But the way I have the decoys set up is this is kind of interesting. So I took some learnings from my fight against the corrupted dreadnought. I've got 2 generators up front. So I found out in the corrupted dreadnought fight that they will, and against the legacy ships that I fought, they will target the base of this generator. So this generator is 2 blocks tall. They will target this block right here. They will not target this block right here. So previously I actually had this flipped upside down and it was 1 block higher. I lowered it by 1 block and I put the base right here. That is so that way legacy would be punching a hole at the bottom of this ship to go after these 2 decoys right here. These 2 decoys bottom. Next one you run into is this big old drive thruster. For anything that targets a thruster, they're going to go for the base of the drive thruster up here. They're going up here. Which means anything going after that drive thruster is going up here. It is going to be shooting through this part of my ship, which is different than this part of my ship. Which really helps when you diversify where they're shooting. So that means anything targeting generators is going right here, to the sides, right here, and right here. Anything targeting the drive thruster is going to go in this area right here. Now, if you keep going, what else is back here? We've got a turret, thrusters, thrusters, more thrusters. Finally, way back here is the warp drive. So I kind of mentioned before, warp drive. That is way, way so far in the back that, gosh, I hope they never get to it. If they do, it's a catastrophic failure. But this turret I put right down here. And I put it intentionally down towards the bottom of this drive thruster. So yes, if something is targeting this drive thruster, they're going to go straight through this hole. They're going to take out this drive thruster, and this whole cavity is going to be empty in here. Right? There's going to be a big hole there. But if they're going for that turret, which is right here, they're going to be going straight through this drive thruster and straight out the middle of the ship. Which, if you look at that nose, that's in the middle right here. So if you think about where my turrets, where everything's placed, right, you've got a little symbol. You got generator right there. You got generator right there. You got drive thruster, which is right there. You've got turret, which is right there. So generator, generator, drive thruster, turret, all set to the middle. If you keep going further back, the warp drive is right here. Warp drive is in line with this turret. I mean, it is right here. Then if you take a look around, like this cavity will eventually get filled with a thruster. That's what it's there for. So maybe you have a thruster there. Then all of a sudden, if there's a thruster there, then they want to start eating through this part of your ship, which they haven't even targeted yet. If you keep going back further than that, you've got thruster up top, you've got turret below, you got thrusters to the side. If you keep going back, you got thrusters to the bottom, you got generator, then you got another generator up here. So on these 2, targeting the bottom block down here, these 2 are completely separate. Those are blocked off. It's targeting the top block up here. If you get these filled in with drive thrusters, now it's going to want to go through this thruster, through that one, all the way back here. So there's just a lot. There's a lot in this ship that's all set up as decoys. And with all of these, everything up here is all Xeno. It can take a lot of damage. And that's how I would recommend setting up your ships against the Legacy. You don't need a fast ship. you just need a lot of decoys, and you need a lot of decoys in a lot of different spots in your ship. So that way the Legacy, as you can see, they'll target everywhere. I mean, we had thrusters back there. We had generators back there. Gosh, I don't remember what else is back there. So there was just a lot of stuff where they're going to be hitting. You know, thrusters on the sides. Everywhere is going to get hit on that ship. And if you keep your ship mobile during the battle and not sitting completely still, if you're moving around constantly like this, they'll keep hitting different blocks around that area. So keep that in mind as well. They won't always hit just one block and focus it down. They'll take angles. They maybe hit this block, they'll hit this block, they'll hit this block, they'll hit this block. They'll probably hit this one too sometimes. All in the interest of trying to hit this one. Alright, well that's all I got. That is the Legacy version 1.7 overview for Reforged Eden, with the updates, with the changes. I hope that helped. Hope you have any questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, thanks for joining. Take care, and I hope to see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.